Hello and welcome back to Camus Classics. Today we're going to be working again on the 66 Oldsmobile 442. We've got this top panel done, at least far enough to be able to move on. Still got to do a little bit of finish work before we paint it, but we're good enough for now. So today we're going to be putting in the trunk floor. We're going to start with, we got the braces down here. We've got the the brace that mounts to the frame. There's another brace that goes from here, which is this one. We don't have a spot welder, so we're going to do what they call plug welding. We've drilled these holes, and so we'll put it on there. We've ground them down where they're going to go. We've also got holes back here on the back of where it mounts on the back. So we'll go ahead and clamp it, and then we'll go ahead and weld it. So what we're shooting for here is the metals to be tight. So when we put the weld in, they're tight down.
Yeah, maybe these littler ones will work better.
Well, I can get these 3 holes, and then I'll move my clamps and get a little further out. Okay, so close up I don't see well, so we'll be using some safety glass or some reading glasses. We got our welding helmet. The process we'll be using is a MIG welder with 75-25 mixed gas, 0.30 wire. Preference would be to do it with 0.023, but we've got to reconfigure to do that, and so we're going to use what we have in there. So here we go.
Hand me the hammer, will you?
When we're MIG welding, we keep the wire real short, and basically what we're going to do is just create a swirl in those holes we drilled. The other thing with MIG welding is you want to keep your line fairly straight. You don't want any hard kinks in it. So with MIG welding, what we're really looking for is MIG welding's more sound than anything. So what we're really looking for is the sound of sizzling bacon. When we have that, we have the wire speed's right, the heat temperature's right. When mixed together, we're looking for the color distortion here, which means that we were hot enough that it's melded together. Okay, so we got that side in. It's fairly solid. The trunk pan goes up underneath this. The trunk pan will mount to these rails as long as they're around the outside. So this will stiffen up pretty good. So we're ready to move to the other side. Like I said, what we're looking for is for the metals to be tight and touching.
You'll have to weld this one over here and then I'll move that.
So like I said, this side's good, this side's not, so once we get that welded, we'll move over there. Typically what happens on that is I bumped the ground a little bit right there when I was doing that. So we didn't have a ground, so it couldn't arc. So we just take our pliers, again, keep the wire short. Okay, so that's got our braces welded in. You kind of saw that I jumped around a little bit there. The reason for that is when you're welding especially sheet metal stuff, if you get too much heat in one area, it will warp. It raises, lowers, and we don't want that. So I jumped around a little bit to keep the heat down in areas. So we're just about ready to put the trunk floor in to mark it. So we'll do that. Before we can weld that in, we'll have to grind down the welds so that we have a flat surface, but we can put this in here because we're going to have to do the same thing. So we can mark off, we'll set it in here where it goes. We'll mark off from underneath where the brackets are so that we can go ahead and do the plug welds. Again, from the factory they would be spot welded, but of course when the factory did it, it was a whole lot easier because everything was apart and they could get to it, as well as they had the equipment to do it. We have a MIG welder, we don't have a spot welder, so we're going to do it with what equipment we have. So as you can see, our piece isn't fitting. We didn't quite get all cut out what we needed. So we'll have to pull it out and cut it. The floor was kind of not really here when we was starting, so we're just having to fit it the best we can. We'll go ahead and we'll cut out what we need. And we'll get back to it. So we got this panel fitting fairly well now. We got to get the other side in, set the center section in, and then we can start marking it up. As you can see, we've had to do a little modifications. We got to do the same thing here. That one little strip is what was holding us out. It's a remainder from the previous trunk floor. So once we get that out, we'll be able to put this other side in, set our center in, make sure everything's looking good, and then we'll get ready to weld it.
Large pliers.
So we're just using a cut-off wheel to get most of that out of there, and then we'll use this little grinder to smooth it up and finish it up so we can weld to it.
Scraper go. What we're dealing with is, from the factory, they use a stuff called seam sealer that they put wherever two panels join to keep moisture out, and you have to get that off where you're going to weld, and so we're grinding that off. The problem is it's almost like a glue when it gets hot, so it sticks to the disc of the grinding disc. So we'll continue on. And once we get that done, we can start putting the panels back in. Okay, so we got the panels mostly in. We're missing 2 that are somewhere here in the shop. So we've got to find those. We need those to do the finish up, making sure that the panels are where they need to be before we weld in the 2 outside panels. I guess they would be the 2 middle panels and then the center panel, because the other 2 go on the outside. Once we find those, then we can finish it up and get it welded in. I'll just show you a little bit of what it looks like right now. So the center section, it's got to be cut back a little bit to fit down in. There's a channel in this one. This piece comes a little bit oversized just so we can cut it down to fit exactly where we need it to be. So panels that we are missing are these little end ones that just finish off the trunk over to the fender. Again, once we find those, then we can make sure that this panel here and the other outside panel are where they need to go. Then we can get those welded in, and then we can weld in the 2 outsides in the center after we cut the center down to where it goes. It does have lines up with the ribs before, so we'll line those up, and then from there we'll determine where it's got to cut. We'll get this all ground down so that we can get a good weld on it. With MIG welding, the cleaner the better. It's not quite as bad as TIG welding, that you have to have it perfectly clean, but if any contaminants will get in your weld, and it'll be a poor weld. So we'll get that ground down and ready to go.